Hey, Phaser, welcome. Good to see you again. Hey, congrats. Yeah, you are almost there. Trust me when I say that that last, that post captain, I think, is what that rank is. That grind there just takes a long time. Um, you have to run basically 100 missions, whether that's 100 donations or 100 cargo runs. That's what you basically have to do because you almost never get more than 1% per mission. There are times when the +5 will get you like 1.5% or maybe 2. But yeah, that last one is definitely a grind. But the bounce loop certainly makes it a lot easier to do. Welcome, everyone, to today's live stream, episode number 15 of our Elite Dangerous New Adventure playthrough series. I'm Commander Joe, and I want to thank you for coming along on our journey today. So I don't think I have anything on admin notes today. So on our recap, last week we had finished up the Federation rank grind, and we had purchased that bad boy right there. So this is the Federal Corvette. We talked a little bit about how pricey it is to finish up the outfitting on it. That when I started last week's episode, I had, give or take, 700 million credits in the bank, and now you can see my cash stack up there is 83 million. So it took over 600 million credits just to buy the modules that I was looking for, and all of that was at either a 15 or either at a 2.5%, a 15%, or a 17.5% discount, depending upon the modules, because we're doing this in a Leon system and we have elite status. And sometimes those discounts stack up. So we now have the Federal Corvette. Today we're going to be looking at how to, or what this exact build is, how to outfit it, because there are a couple of things that we're gonna, or something that we're gonna need to unlock, and I need to talk about that, and then how the engineering goes, and then hopefully for the remainder of the stream today we'll take it out and we'll go do some pew pew on stuff. So let's go ahead and jump in here, and we're going to be in solo play because I am going to be engineering today, and we'll kind of talk about what I did off stream as well. Oh, okay, so they did get the mega market in Jacques, and it didn't require any further community goals. I think that was one of the comments in the forums, is that when they went 2 weeks and didn't have a community goal, everyone was like, well, it's just, they're not going to make us go back again. If it's been 2 weeks, they're not going to make us go back. If they would have waited a week and made us go back, that would have upset people even more. So when they didn't do the community goal immediately after another one to try and set up the mega market, people kind of figured that it was just going to happen sometime. So yeah, good thing it's happened. Colonia's desperately needed a mega market out there, and I'm glad we were all able to get that done. So let's kind of take a look at our Corvette here, and I'm going to change over to my other screen, and I'm in Coriolis, and here's the build that I have for my Federal Corvette. And I talked about this a little bit last time, but let's kind of quickly start with the shields and the armor again. Just to recap on that, when you build out your shields, you're going to end up with a high kinetic number. You're going to, and a low thermal number. That's because all shields come with a small negative or a large negative, depending upon the size of it, to thermal to begin with, and they have explosive and kinetic resistances to start with. So it's really hard to build that thermal up and not sacrifice some of the kinetic and explosive raw hit points that you're going to have for it. Yeah, the firing you hear in the background is I'm on a stronghold carrier, and stronghold carriers constantly get into conflicts, power conflicts. So you're going to hear the carrier's lasers going off out there as long as I'm docked here. So yeah, it's not me getting shot at. So your shield is going to have some higher numbers here in kinetic. That's not a bad thing, like I said, because you're going to get shot at with lasers a lot, but railguns are a thing, and railguns are both kinetic and thermal. So having a bit of extra kinetic, so when you're getting shot at by people with lasers, people getting shot at with multi-cannons, and people get shot at with railguns that do both, you've got a little bit of extra against that kinetic damage, which, like I say, is not a bad thing. The armor, I aim to get standard, or get as equal as I can across all the numbers on my armor, and that's, again, a little bit easier because your armors don't have a big negative to thermal at any particular point. So it's a lot easier to make these equal. The reason for that is because you get a lot of, once your shields go down, you get a myriad of people attacking you with different things. And having a good mix across all three of the damage types is going to benefit you the most when you are trying to simply either get through a fight and let your shields come back, or in the case of ours, if our shields go down, we're more than likely going to be then exiting the fight and withdrawing. And that gives us enough opportunity to be able to escape without having to, or without dying, is basically what we're doing here. So I mentioned a couple of modules here that you need to unlock to make this build work. Now, last week I talked about grinding your power rank because of the rather rare situation in the Inguni system, where Soontail relics are up to 600 available at the station right now. I hope you took advantage of that, or you take advantage of it soon. It's still going, or it was this morning when I checked, because you're going to need power rank to unlock one of these modules, and that's the prismatic shield generator. The prismatic shield generator is a high raw hit point shield generator that has low regeneration rate and much lower broken regeneration rate. So it's meant to be a shield that you keep up and running. If you lose your shield and your shield gets broken, it's going to take forever to come back. So your goal here is to keep that shield up and not ever let it go down. And that's how this build is set up around the prismatic. Normally for PvE combat, having raw amounts of shields is a good thing. In PvP, it's not. You're normally going to be focused more on bi-weaves and something like that, which have a much higher regeneration rate and a much higher broken regeneration rate than prismatics. But in those, you're also focusing on smaller ships. Here we have a lot of power available to us, but you'll see it's kind of not a lot of power at the end of the day. But prismatics are the way to go on the Corvette. But to get a prismatic, you can see that's a power play module. You're going to have to unlock it. And every power unlocks it slightly differently. This, back in the day when every power had a different module, and you had to rank up with every power to unlock all the modules, the prismatic shield generator was from Ailing Duval. With Power Play 2.0, or the Ascendancy update being released last year, or a couple of years ago, now every power has access to every module. You just unlock them in a different order. So if you want to do the least amount of grinding with your power, then go pledge to Aileen Duval, and you will unlock the prismatic shield generator, I think at level 32 with her. With me being pledged to Lee Yong-ri, I unlocked the prismatic shield generator at level 63. Okay. Some of them you won't unlock it until level 97 or 98. So it just kind of depends on what power you're pledged to as to when you're going to unlock the prismatics. Since it used to be an Aileen Duval module, they made it quicker or quickest for someone pledged to her to unlock it. But everybody can unlock it in any power. So now that we have so much quantity available to us at for the Centaur relics, if you go do those and you sell them at 150 light years, you're going to gain, give or take, 4, sometimes 5 ranks every round trip of selling 600 relics. So it's a quick way to rank up, and each one of those round trips takes 20 to 30 minutes. So you can rank up all the way from 0 to 100 in, give or take, 10 hours. I did it in 7.5, but that's only because I actually used this Corvette as the cargo ship to do it, and the jump range is horrible. So it took about 30 minutes per round trip, not 20 minutes. So I could have done it faster if I'd have bought a ship for it. But you need to go do that because, like I say, the prismatics are a must-have for how this build works. Otherwise, you're going to be using a lot of shield cell banks and having to manage your heat a lot more than what I have to do in this one. The second thing that you're going to have to unlock are Guardian shield reinforcement packages. We talked about the Guardian frameshift booster, which we unlocked a while ago. And while we were out there farming modules, we farmed all 6 of the required modules that we needed to unlock all of the Guardian modules in the game. So we already had that one farmed up. I was a little bit like 11 short on Guardian technology components to unlock the shield reinforcement package, and you need to go pick up like 8 items, like 8 commodities from a station, like sensor chips or something like that you need to go pick up from a station. You can go turn it into a technology broker and you'll unlock the shield reinforcement packages. You don't absolutely have to have these, but these are raw numbers. And what I mean by that is when you look at your absolute numbers here, that is what Guardian shield reinforcement packages increase. So I'm adding 430, 573 megajoules straight onto my absolute number here, and that's a little shy of 15%. When I add my resistances into that, it ups these numbers by 1,000 here, give or take, because it's 50% explosive, so you double it. It's a little more, it's like 1,200 in kinetic and almost 1,000 in thermal. So because it applies to your absolute numbers, your resistances are going to boost it even more. So they're a way to increase your shield power. It comes at the expense of using power draw. So you can see each one of these is going to take 1.26 megawatts to do it. So I tend to add these in here to reinforce my shields, and you'll need to unlock those at a Guardian technology broker to do it. So let's kind of get into the build itself a little bit now that we know what components we're going to need. So reactive surface composites are the best armor here for just raw stats and evening out those numbers. I talked about this previously in that reactive surface composites cost you 443 million credits. I'm actually going to swap back here, and I'm going to go to outfitting here on the Stronghold Carrier. I'm going to go to my core internal, and I'm going to go here and replace the module. You can see that here I'm getting a 17.5% price reduction. So I'm getting, and that plus and minus is a little weird. It's they add together. It's not a negative and positive like it says. But the normal price for this is 443 million credits. I can get it here for 367 million credits because we're at a Li Yangri controlled station, and we're adding the 2.5% reduction for having something that's elite already. And that is what made this affordable for me. If I had to do 443, I would be almost entirely out of credits. And like I say, it would take something a little over 1 billion credits to build this out. So definitely take advantage of a Li Yangri system and your elite discount to go pick these things up. Now, if you're not pledged to Li Yangri, you can't land at the Stronghold Carrier. And you may have to travel around a bunch of different Li Yangri systems to find all the modules you need. But you definitely want to take advantage of that as much as you can. So, reactive surface composites for the armor, we're going to engineer that, and we're going to add thermal resistance and layered plating. So you can see that the base numbers for this, we added a lot of thermal resistance to this by adding thermal resistant grade 5. You can see we added 33% onto our thermal resistance to this armor. Again, trying to get those numbers straight across the board here. And layered plating added 7.2% to our explosive. Basically what we're doing is we're engineering it here to get the highest raw numbers that we can. And a lot of that is based upon the resistances that we're getting, and we're getting those resistances through the armor selection and the engineering. Okay. The power plant. 8A power plant. A word about the power plant. You are not even going to be able to fly this ship unless you have an overcharged power plant. The standard 8A, you won't even be able to take off. If you buy all of these modules at once and you equip them, even if you don't have any engineering on any of these modules, you're going to be over the size of the power plant. You simply will not even be able to take off. So when you're building this, make sure that you have Marco Quint, like I did last week. Marco Quint with a pinned overcharged blueprint to grade 4. If you have unlocked Heratani, which we'll talk about here in a second, then you can pin the overcharged grade 5. But the note about this is that you're going to have engineering to make this build even, just to even put all of these modules in it. So regardless of the engineering needs and what that does to your power consumption, just to build it, you're going to have a grade 4 8A power plant. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Now with Heratani, she's an easy unlock. We had already learned about her from Liz Ryder by getting 33% with Liz Ryder. She needs an Imperial Navy rank of Outsider or higher. Outsider is rank number 2. Okay, so you can go to an Imperial station, find some donation missions, pick them up, pay them, and then you're going to immediately unlock rank 2, do the Federation rank up mission, or the Imperial rank up mission, and you're done. Okay, so it's really easy to do it. Kamitra cigars right now, if you do it, the Hamel terminal in Kamitra is in Boom, so you can get 68 Kamitra, up to 68 Kamitra cigars, so you can get this done in one run if you're doing it right now. Otherwise, I think there's 40 here at the station, and you need to make 2 runs to unlock her fully. But like I say, either unlock Haratani and get a grade 5 power plant. She's the only one that does grade 5 power plants here in the bubble, or have Marco Quent and temporarily pinned his grade 4 so that you can rank this thing up to be able to make this build work. So 7A thrusters, maximum size thrusters we can get. Dirty drive, drag drive, that gives us the most maneuverability on our Corvette, which is what makes this ship shine, or one of the things that makes this ship shine in combat is how maneuverable it is. The 6A FSD SCO pre-engineered, you need a Titan drive component for this. We talked about how to get those a long time ago when we built our Mandalay. I have not done this yet. I'm going to do it this week and unlock this module. Right now I have just a regular 6A with increased FSD range and Mass Manager, but once you get this one, you want to put Mass Manager on it to get the maximum jump range out of this, because your jump range is going to be absolutely horrible. And if you're taking this ship anywhere long distance, it's going to take you a long time to get there. Life support, again, 5D with MISC lightweight. I don't care about life support because this ship doesn't normally take enough damage from an absolute perspective to start hurting things like your canopy and that sort of stuff. So I don't care about life support, so I just get the lightest one with the minimum grade I can. The power distributor, 8A. Now I'm not going to need probably an 8A power distributor here. I've done charge enhanced, which basically gets your recharge rate up to 36% by lowering your capacity, and cluster capacitors, which again offsets that capacity loss. So here I'm losing 5% capacity in each, but here I'm gaining 7.6 back, and I'm only losing 2.9% recharge rate. So these two kind of balance each other out. Now, like I said, I probably don't need an 8A power distributor, and we'll talk about that here in a second when we get into the hard points. Sensors. Now, sensors on a combat ship, I do not skimp on. I want to be able to identify ships a long way away, and that's why I put long range grade 5 on mine. That gets me up to 13.44 kilometers of typical emission view range. If they're running cold or something like that, it's going to cut that down to half of this, to around 7.5 or so, or 6.5 or so. But I want to be able to see targets a long way away, and I'd be able to identify them so I know who to go after and who not to with my sensors. Okay. So optional internal, the biggest slot needs to be for the biggest shield, and that's where I have the prismatic shield generator in there. Reinforced and high cap simply add higher strength to it. I got a 32% optimal strength increase plus a big boost to all of my resistances, and high cap is just going to add another 8.3% strength on top of that. I want raw numbers on my shield. Okay. Now with prismatics, I talked about it a bit ago. With prismatics, you want them to always stay online. You do not want your shields to ever drop. If your shields drop, you're probably going to be exiting combat and landing somewhere to let those shields recharge, because shields recharge faster, much faster, when you're docked at a station or a fleet carrier than what they do just out there in the field. So that's kind of what you're going to be looking for. So in order to keep those shields up and to minimize the amount of round trips back and forth from having to recharge my shields if they go down, we have shield cell banks. Now, what a shield cell bank does is when you trigger it, it adds a certain amount of power back into your shields over a certain amount of time. Okay. And in this case, 7As are the highest grade I can get in here. They're going to have a spin up time of 6 seconds, which means that when you trigger it, it's going to start spinning up the generator. And then over the next 11 seconds, it's going to start pumping all of that energy into your shield. So it takes 15 seconds to do it. So you don't want to wait until your shields are almost about to drop before you do this. You want to be triggering them a little bit early. Now, during that spin up time, you're going to be gaining a bunch of heat. And we're going to try and mitigate that heat through something else that we look at here in a little bit. But there are 5 cells in this shield cell bank, which means between the 2 of them that I have, I can recharge my shields 10 times using these shield cell banks. Okay. Now, each time I do it, I'm going to get 3,600 megajoules back into my shields. That's an absolute number. So it's almost fully recharging my shields. It's about 80% of my shield strength back from one trigger of my shield cell bank. Okay. Now, I can further do that by upping up or engineering these. So specialist only goes up to grade 4. Specialized only goes up to grade 4, I should say, not specialist. What that does is reduce the amount of heat that you generate. You can see the thermal load there. It drops by 18%. It also lowers my boot time, but that's not something we're really interested in. That's not the same as spin up time at all. And it does give me a slight boost to shield reinforcement. Okay. There are other options in here for rapid charge, which reduces your spin up time. And again, you can see that's different than boot time. Gives me slightly more shield reinforcement. Okay. But it does nothing to the heat. Right. And the heat is what I'm interested in here. I'm interested in controlling my heat here. And I do that in kind of a slightly different way than you would normally see. So I went with specialized boss cells. Just it adds extra spin up time, another second, but it gives me another 5.5% to my shield reinforcement numbers. So with both of those, I get me up to like 80% of my total shields every time I pop a shield cell bank. Okay, and we'll talk about how I mitigate that heat here in a second. So a fuel scoop. This and the Guardian frame shift drive booster down here in this 5 slot are what I call transitory modules. They're there if I need them, but if I can get rid of them once I get to where I'm going, I will. Okay, and what I kind of mean by that is that the 6A is going to help me get to where I'm going because my fuel tank has 32 tons. And I can jump like 5 30 light year jumps and I'm out of fuel. Okay. So it's not that far. It's only like 150 light years of range before I have to refuel. The 6A fuel scoop lets me do that, but it's taken up a big slot here that I could put another either shield reinforcement, a module reinforcement, or a whole reinforcement package in. Okay. So what I normally try and do is if I'm going somewhere for combat, I kind of look and see what modules are available at stations in the system. And if I can pick up a whole reinforcement package over there, I will. Or sometimes what I'll do is I'll have a 5D whole reinforcement, a 5D Guardian shield reinforcement, and a module reinforcement, and I would just ship them out to where I'm going. I'll pay the transfer fee. It'll take however many minutes to get out there. I can go do some combat runs and then come back and change out the fuel scoop and the frame shift drive booster for other things. But I keep them on there because my numbers are more than good enough for the combat I'm going to be getting into. That would just help me maximize my combat abilities and the ability to stay in a combat loop longer before I need to replenish my stuff. So whole reinforcement packages. We haven't talked about this, but what they do is they give you a straight boost to whole reinforcement. Okay, similar to a flat boost to your shields with the Guardian shield reinforcement package, that gives you a straight boost to your armor's absolute hit points, and your resistances up those numbers even more. Okay, so the whole reinforcement package here is going to give me an additional 738 armor when I've applied heavy duty grade 5 and deep plating, which gives me a 17.2% boost on it. Okay, so I've got 2 of those here, and then I've got a couple of 4Ds down here. Okay, now these things don't stack up like you think. And what I mean by that is that you could theoretically fill all of these things with with like shield boosters, for instance, which give you resistances or adding resistances onto your whole reinforcement here. So I've got like 15.5. That's like 8 or 7 of these, and I could be 100% resistances in all of these. That means I'd never take any damage. The game doesn't work like that. It doesn't let you do that. There's diminishing returns on these. So the more of them you stack on a ship, the less benefit you're going to get later on. Normally around 4 or so, depending upon the module, is where that diminishing returns really starts kicking in. So I don't recommend putting more than 4 of any of a particular of the same type that are boosting resistances, because you're just not going to get as much out of them later on. If you're going to do that, split them across multiple different sizes. For some reason, if you put a 5 and a 4 and a 3 and a 2 and a 1, they all tend to stack up a lot better than if you have a whole bunch of size 5s. Not entirely sure why the game's coded that way. You'll still never get 100% resistances, but you will get a slightly better numbers out of it. So all of my whole reinforcement packages, heavy duty, deep plating, just to give me the straight boost to my armor numbers here. And like I say, each one of them does add in a certain percentage. But I have 15, 15, 15 and a half, 15 and a half, so that's like 61% resistances if you total all these up. I don't have 61% resistances anywhere, and that's what I mean. There's diminishing returns on these. So don't waste a bunch of engineering materials and that sort of stuff once you get past a certain number of them. They're not going to be worth it anymore. So then I have another Guardian shield reinforcement package down here, another 143 straight to it. So what I normally do, if I can, when I'm getting there, is I'll drop the frame shift booster off, and I will drop in a 5D module reinforcement package. Now, what module reinforcement package, and you're not going to see it listed up here, but what modules reinforcement package do is they up the integrity on all of your modules. So while you're taking damage that gets through your shields and gets through your armor, which is what's called absolute damage, you can be taking damage to the integrity of your modules. And they take enough damage, they will go offline. Now that doesn't happen, that's really mostly in Thargoid combat, not necessarily in PvP or PvP combat. In PvE combat, you take module damage a lot more often because smart PvPers target specific modules, and I'll show you how to do that once we get into combat here. So module reinforcements are not really all that important in PvP. They're very important in Thargoid combat, and they're somewhat important in PvE. If I get somewhere and I can transfer one over, I'll drop it in. So let's look at my utility mounts. Okay, so point defense. The only reason these 2 point defenses are here is because I don't want to put any more than 4 shield boosters. There are builds out there that have like 8 shield boosters in here. I'm not saying it's pointless. You can get higher numbers than what I have here on my shields, but they're going to be only slightly bigger. I might get a 10% boost over some of these if I take this up to 8 shield boosters. Because like I say, once you get above a certain number, they don't stack like you would expect them to stack. Okay? So point defense is up here because one, it will help stop missiles and rockets and things like that that are coming in toward my ship. They're just not all that useful in PvE combat, but they can serve a purpose. But the more important part was if I added 2 more shield boosters up here, I'm at the point of diminishing returns where it's really not worth it. I might as well get something else that will keep missiles and rockets from hitting me, and I can eliminate some of that explosive damage entirely by using it. So, point defense, I have ammo capacity. So again, I can stay in the fight as long as possible and not have to leave the zone as often. So, kill warrant scanner. Kill warrant scanner is if you scan a ship and they have a bounty, you can increase the amount of payout that you're going to get from killing that ship. Okay. Now, not every ship has a bounty. Well, an extra bounty, I should say. But a lot of them do, especially pirates. And if you scan them before you kill them, you're going to get a bonus to your payout. Now, you're going to get a payout by killing everybody. This just adds a bonus on top of that. And the bonus can sometimes be pretty large. The reason that I equip a kill warrant scanner is because when I engineer it to be fast scan, I set my my fire groups so that while I'm firing my beam lasers to take down his shields, I'm also scanning him at the exact same time. That way, I don't even have to do anything else different with buttons. I don't have to switch fire groups. It's just basically free cash at the expense of a utility slot. So for me, there's no reason not to do it. Your build might be a little different. And then a heat sink launcher. This is purely for an emergency basis. If I am caught activating my shield cell banks and I don't have a ship that I'm able to fire at, I can use a heat sink to get rid of that extra heat. Now, I put ammo capacity upgrade on that, so I have 4 of them available to use, because the way I manage heat from a shield cell bank is not by using heat sinks. If you're going to be not doing what I'm doing, or outfitting your hardpoints like I'm doing, you probably want to either remove the point defenses and add in more heatsink launchers, remove the kill warrant scanner and add in more heatsink launchers, because you're going to need to use it every time you pop a shield cell bank. And that means you're going to need 10 of them. The increased ammo capacity only gets you 4, so you're going to need to have at least 3 of them to be able to do that. I don't like sacrificing 3 slots just to manage my heat. I think it's a waste. I'd prefer to add more shield cell boosters, the kill warrant scanner, and point defense in place of a heatsink launcher. But again, the choice is up to you. So now let's look at our hard points. So, and for this, I'm going to open up another Coriolis window here. And I'm going to look at hard points here. So you can see the Federal Corvette has 2 huge or class 4 hardpoint slots. If I sort this by class 4 hardpoints, you can see that the Corvette has the most huge class hardpoints of anything in the game. Okay? Nothing else has 2 huge slots on it, just the Federal Corvette. Now, if you compare it to the Imperial Cutter, it's the opposite. I have 1 large and 2 huge. It has 1 huge and 2 large. I have 2 medium, 2 smalls. It has 4 mediums. Okay. So there's a different setup of firepower here. Okay. Now, in combat against ships, especially high-end ships and large class ships, you're going to find that taking down the enemy shields is not normally the problem. Now, I say that with a caveat because a lot of the ships that are higher danger level are going to have shield cell banks. They're going to be engineered just like I am, and they're going to have shield cell banks, and they can replenish their shields quite a bit. But still, even with that being said, I find that shields come down a lot faster than armor does. So that's where the Federal Corvette and the Anaconda and the Cutter go about this in different ways. Okay. So for the Federal Corvette, if I'm focusing on taking down armor fast, then I want to put armor damaging hardpoints in the huge and a shield damaging one in the large and mediums. If I'm playing as the Imperial Cutter, I want the shield damaging one in the huge, and I want the armor damaging ones in the large and a couple of mediums, and I'll put some more shield damaging stuff in the mediums. Okay. So that's how this build lays out. My huge slots are filled with multi-cannons. Now, multi-cannons excel at damaging armor. They do not excel at damaging shields, and that's because they are a kinetic damage type. Thermals excel at damaging shields. Kinetics excel at damaging armor. Unless you've got engineering that adds resistances, which when you're attacking my armor, it doesn't care. If you're using kinetic weapons, it's going to do the exact same damage as a laser will. But normally that's not the case. And shields normally start with really low thermal resistances, like in the negatives. So if I go here and I just look at my Federal Corvette, you see it starts out with a -20 in thermals. So if the PvE ship hasn't engineered their shield generator or done something like that, they're going to be taking a lot more damage to shields from thermal stuff than with kinetics, which comes with a 40% resistance baked into it. Okay, so I don't want to be shooting my multi-cannons at shields, but I want to be using my lasers to do it. So I've shifted my shields, or my shield damaging weapons, to the large and the two mediums, and the two huges are for damaging armor, and then the two smalls are for damaging armor as well. Okay, now if you're, like I say, if you're working with the Cutter, it's going to be different. A different mix to get the highest DPS against each particular thing, either shields or armor. All right, you don't want to be putting beam lasers up here for the most part when you're going to take down the enemy shield super fast, which is nice. But then with a multi-cannon here, and even down here, you're going to struggle to take their armor down. And they're just going to get their shields back really fast, or they're going to get their shields back, and you're going to have to spend 5 seconds battering their shields down again, and you go back to shooting these things again. And I accidentally got rid of that. So let's bring that back. Yep. Now there's something else that that the Corvette layout of Hardpoints does really well. And that's these two small multi-cannons down here. Like I say, taking down armor is normally harder. So I want to bring in some additional engineering that's going to help me do that. And that engineering is going to nerf the raw damage that weapon can do. But it's going to significantly boost the damage that all my other weapons can do. So I want to, having it with a small category is going to lessen the amount of DPS hit that I take overall. So let's look at our multi-cannons. So Multi-cannons on both of these overcharged. That gets me a straight 80% damage boost. And auto-loader. Now, this is a hot take because people will say that you need to either have oversized for that straight damage boost, which is what people would normally do, or multi-servos to increase a rate of fire. However, when your clip runs out, your 77 ammo runs out, it takes a while to reload a class 4 multi-cannon. And with 2100, and I have 77, so 21, that's 27 times I'm going to have to reload before I run out of ammo. That's 27 times where I can't do any damage with them for a full 5 seconds. Okay. Auto reload or auto loader, it automatically reloads the weapon while I'm firing. Now, it's not going to keep up entirely, so I'm still going to have to reload, but it's going to cut those reloads down to about a third of what I would normally have. That just lets me keep sustained DPS longer on a target, and also possibly not let them get away if they're trying to jump out of the system. Maybe I get that little extra DPS in that's going to kill them before they can jump away. So I think autoloader is by far the best to go if you're using the class 4 multi-cannons on these. And they're both the same, overcharged and autoloader. Then I go into my beam lasers, and I've got 2 different kind of setups for my beam lasers. So my first one, I just want raw damage. So that's overcharged and oversized. That's going to give me an 85% damage boost to my large beam laser. And I want that to be my main shield damaging stuff. The 2 mediums are also damaging shields. I'm not saying that they're not damaging shields. They're still doing quite a bit. The DPS appears 35.5, and each one of these is doing 21.3. So they're still damaging shields a lot. However, I don't necessarily want them just to have a raw damage boost. Overcharged is good, but I'm using thermal vent on both of them. Now, what that allows, I miss out on that extra 5.1% damage on each one, but I'm gaining thermal vent, and what that does is it increases heat dissipation when I successfully hit a target at the cost of increased heat generation when I miss a target. Now, you don't plan on missing a target, and these are gimbaled. You can see the symbol here. They're not fixed. So I'm going to have some leeway in how well they auto track and hit the enemy. And as long as I'm on target, my heat that I'm generating is going to start going down. So what I do when my shields start to run out, and the target that I'm attacking is not using chaff, which disrupts gimbaled weapons, and is not jinking all over the place, I will trigger a shield cell bank and start hitting him with my lasers, and that will vent a bunch of that heat that's being built up. The 2 thermal vents here will counteract a shield cell bank when it activates. Now, it's not entirely, but it is almost all of that heat disappears. So my heat may go up to 70, maybe 80% sometimes, but if I'm hitting a target, my beam lasers are going to be dissipating that heat. Now, if right when I trigger the shield cell bank, that target like boosts away from me or something, and I can't really hit him very much, I have a heat sink launcher, which I can then use to get rid of that additional heat. But I'm relying on my beam lasers to do that for me. All right. Last thing are my multi-cannons, and here's where I talked about I'm going to look at something different. So these are straight DPS buffs here on the first 3, getting decent DPS, and I'm also doing a defensive modification or benefit buff to my ship, Here, I'm going to look at a couple of debuffs and buffs as well. Because every time you do a debuff or apply a debuff or a buff to your weapon, it's going to degrade the damage. But it's on a percent basis, and if it's a small amount of DPS to begin with, that's not going to have nearly as big an impact. So my multi-cannons down here, the first one, I'm using high capacity and corrosive shell. Corrosive shell gives you a debuff to the enemy where it's going to weaken their hull hardness, which is going to basically increase all damage that their armor takes by 25%. Okay. Now, this is going to reduce my ammo capacity by 40%. So I've counteracted that by adding high capacity in. So now my ammo maximum is going to be higher, and I can use corrosive shell longer while in the fight. Okay. And hey, League of Carnage, welcome. Good to see you again. Thanks for being here. So for here, basically what I'm doing is once I take the shields down, corrosive shell is going to give me a 25% boost to all damage that my multi-cannons and lasers are doing. I'm still going to be firing my lasers while I'm taking their armor down. There's no point in not doing it. If your power distributor can handle it, there's no point in not firing lasers at armor if you get the opportunity. It's not nearly as good to waste ammo because they're unlimited ammo if you have a power distributor that works. I'm not going to be shooting my multi-cannons at shields. It would do damage to them, yes, but I have a finite amount of ammo here, and I don't want to waste it on shields. I want to put it where it needs to go. So while that corrosive shell is active, I'm going to be getting 25% damage boosts from all 5 of these weapon hardpoints that are hitting the target. So adding a multi-cannon down here and putting corrosive shell is a must. Now, corrosive shell does not stack, meaning if I put corrosive shell on this one, it's not going to give me an additional 25% here. Corrosive shell only applies from one target and one target only. It does not stack. Okay. So for my second multi-cannon down here, I have high capacity again, and I'm adding thermal shock. Okay, now thermal shock is going to drop my damage by 10% here. But what it's going to do is it's going to add increased heat generation into the enemy target. Now, what does heat generation do? One, if their heat is high enough, they will never boost, which is a huge benefit when you're fighting small ships in a large ship. Not allowing them to boost away means you can keep them in range of your weapons much more, and you don't get into a what I call turn and burn or a jousting fight with them. So adding thermal shock on there means that I can keep them from boosting if I'm going after a difficult target, where I can then kind of keep them in range and allow my weapons to do full damage without the damage drop off. The second thing it does is it doesn't allow them to use other things that generate heat. So they might not use a shield cell bank or something like that to get shields back. So there are ways to use this other than just preventing boost, but I normally use it just to keep them from boosting. And you'll kind of see how that works here in a little bit. So, but thermal shock is a good one. Another one that is decent are emissive munitions. So, emissive munitions increase the radar signature, basically, of an enemy target. So, if they go cold on you, which not a lot of enemies do, but you'll encounter some PvE enemies that have thermal vent. if they go cold on you and they disappear off your sensors, you can't target them at all. You have to use fixed weapons to do it, which I'll kind of show you how to get around that. But emissive munitions will keep them from ever going cold on you. And your gimbaled weapons are always going to be able to lock onto them. Now, this does not prevent chaff from working. It does not lower the amount of jitter that happens with chaff. You're going to see a lot of people talking about this on Reddit and the forums. It's not true. It just isn't. Emissive munitions just keeps people that are going cold from dropping off your sensors, is what it does. And if they drop off your sensors, then gimbaled weapons are not, or turreted weapons are not going to be able to target them. You can still see them. So if you have a fixed weapon, or you untarget them and all your weapons become fixed by default, you can still hit them. But emissive munitions would prevent that entirely. You're just not going to find a whole lot of enemies in PvE that go cold. You're going to find it all the time in PvP, but not as much in PvE. So I think thermal shock is one of the best here to do it for the other one. Again, we're applying a debuff to the enemies. Since our DPS on these are really small, you might as well use it to apply a debuff. Okay. Well, that kind of gets you an idea about what this build is working around, but there is something else that we need to be cognizant of. Now, if you look down here, you can see that when my hardpoints are deployed, I'm at 105.3% of my power plant capacity, and my power plant is overcharged and thermal spread. Thermal spread, like I mentioned earlier, helps shed that heat from the shield cell banks, and in conjunction with my thermal vent beam lasers means that I don't have to use heat sinks. If I wanted to, if I didn't do that and I wanted to focus just on heat sinks, then my power plant isn't big enough to get rid of thermal spread. This would have to be, I'd have to up this to monstered to gain that additional 7% to make this build work. Okay. I really want the big bonus to my power plant, that thermal spread, that 12.5% decrease in heating load that is there. So that means I need to do something else with my power management, and that's where power priorities come into play. We actually heard about this a couple of weeks ago in a comment on one of the video, on one of my videos, and now we're going to talk about it here. So if you go over, you can go over your power supply limit. There's nothing that says you can't do it. What's going to happen when you exceed your power plant limit is the game's going to start shutting modules off until you get down to that power plant limit. Sometimes it's going to shut off things that won't allow your ship to work anymore, and in that case, your power plant just simply is not going to be usable. But here, once we get into the zone where we're at, once we get into the fight, there are certain things that we're never going to use anymore while we're in that fight. Okay? For instance, our frameshift booster. We're not going to use it once we're inside of the instance where we're going to fight. Okay? Same thing with our FSD. We don't need it anymore once we're in there. The FSD is only good in super cruise or hyperspace. We're inside a normal space instance for combat. Our cargo hatch and our advanced docking computer, we don't need any of those things. So we can set those to a lower priority. And then what will happen is when we deploy our hardpoints, it's going to shut off everything that's a low priority. So it's going to automatically turn those things off. And you can see we're now down at 97.3, so all the other stuff stays active. And it does it automatically. Now, as soon as we retract our hardpoints, it does the opposite. It re-enables all of those things. And since our retracted percent is 85%, we're good. All of those things will boot up and this is where we mentioned something earlier about a boot time. Okay, that is not the same as like spin up time on shield cell banks. So our FSD here, if we pick this one actually doesn't show the other stats. Let me go to, let's see here, I'm just going to pick something. Okay, and we'll go to our frame shift drive here. There's a boot time. Okay, if the module is disabled, this is how many seconds it's going to take for that module to start back up once power has been supplied to it again. So for instance, if I go in here and I put my Federal Corvette in, and I take that and I apply the 6A SCO V1, and I put Mass Manager on it, the boot time is only 2 seconds. That's one of the big benefits that I'm going to get with the 6A V1. The 6A has a boot time of 10 seconds. Okay, if I put increased range and Mass Manager on this, that boot time is still 10 seconds. The V1 takes that boot time down to 2 seconds. And that means that when power comes back, that FSD is only going to take 2 seconds to charge, to boot up, and then I can immediately trigger it to enter hyperspace or enter super cruise and leave the combat. Now the boot time is not the spin up time, like I said earlier. That is not going to be how long you see that charging bar on the screen. The boot time is when you lose power, how long does it take to re-energize that module? I don't care about the docking computer, cargo hatch, and the booster. I just want to be able to get into super cruise as quick as I can if I'm in an emergency. Having that V1 FSD means that when I retract my hardpoints, it pops back up. 2 seconds later, I can immediately start the jump into super cruise. Okay. That boot time only really matters when you're shutting off modules due to priorities, but we're going to have to here. Our power management, that's the biggest power plant we can put in it. And if I want to get thermal spread and not have to go with monstered, I'm going to have to set power priorities. In this case, these power priorities are great. They're things I'm not going to use in there anyway. Okay. You could also shut off the fuel scoop. That's another one that could be shut off. But again, it doesn't affect anything here. I could even leave these, leave the fuel scoop at 1, the cargo hatch, and the advanced docking computer, I think it's just those 2 that are needed, yeah. So really just the FSD and the FS booster are needed in my priority settings here, and I'm still fully able to deploy my weapons without losing anything else. Okay. So that kind of gives you an idea about how this build works and what it does, as far as what the playability is like. So I hope that what I'll do after the stream today is I will drop a link to this build, and you guys can go check it out and take a look at it and kind of see what you think of it or modify it yourself. League asks, do I like scatter spectrum? So scatter spectrum, it's not scramble, it's not scatter spectrum. I think it's scramble spectrum, actually. Let me look. I can see it right here. Whoops, not there. No, it's actually only on... Is it only on burst lasers and pulse lasers? I think it might be. Yeah, So there it is. So this is only available on burst lasers and pulse lasers, I think. It doesn't apply to beam lasers. So it's not something that I have in my build. It's not that I necessarily have anything against burst lasers or pulse lasers. If I was going to do it, I would only do it on the Clash 3 spot here, because these I need for thermal vent, and I need those to... I don't even know if you can apply thermal vent. No, you can't apply thermal vent. So, because I need thermal vent here. The overall DPS on these, if I go to a 3C beam laser, I'm at 20.3 with a damage per shot of 20.3. If I oversize that or overcharge it, and this one is oversized, I'm at 35.5 DPS. If I change that to a 3E burst laser and I put overcharged and oversized, I'm 29.1. So the DPS on my pulse laser and my burst laser are not going to be as high as the beam laser, obviously. And my power distributor can handle that. But what his question is do we like scramble spectrum? It reduces your rate of fire, but what it does is have a small percent chance to shut down or make random modules malfunction. Now, that it is a purely random selection, so it may be disabling modules that you don't really care about. And the percent chance that it does it is pretty small. I think it's only a 5% chance or something like that, or a 2.5% chance. It's a really small percent chance. But it can, especially against large ships where it takes a while to beat them down, it can cause some significant problems for them to do. Very similar to what I'm doing with thermal shock. I'm specifically focusing on them not boosting away from me. Scramble spectrum can possibly do the same thing. It can also disable their shield generator. It could also disable their fuel scoop, or their life support, or something else. It could disable a bunch of things that have integrity with them. So, do I like it? I'd say I'm ambivalent. I'm saying it's neither good nor bad. It's not something that I'm ever going to have in a build that I'm specifically going after. I have used it before and tested it out. The other thing I don't like about it is that it works against... You have to be hitting the hull, I believe. I don't think it works when you're taking down their shields. Yeah. Allow hull strikes to potentially trigger random malfunctions on the target. Which means that I'm using lasers against the hull for those things to trigger, which isn't necessarily bad, but what it's doing is dropping my DPS down by that 11% or whatever it is. So in this particular build, if I was using it here, I'd be losing DPS over a beam laser, and then I'd be losing more DPS trying to take their shields down with it, and it doesn't have any effect when I'm taking down the shields. It's only going to be effective when I'm then attacking their hull afterward, and I just prefer not to do that. But like I say, Scramble Spectrum is not bad. I don't necessarily think it's good. I think it's right there in the middle. If you want to use it, you can use it. So we've kind of gone through the build here. Let's take a quick look at what we've done here in outfitting. Okay, so all of my hardpoints are filled up with, and I mean all of my slots are filled up with the exact modules that I want, with the exception of one thing, and that's I just have a 6A SCO frameshift drive here. I do not have the V1. Probably later on this afternoon, I'm going to go farm that Titan drive component, and I'm going to buy the 6A V1. But I have one that's here. The reason it's engineered is because I used this as my cargo ship to run 600 tons of Soontir relics back and forth for sale. I didn't want to buy a cargo ship yet. I wanted to wait until we got to that gameplay loop before I bought a ship. And I wouldn't have had a whole lot of money to do it anyway. So I engineered this just to get higher jump range out of it to make it a little less painful. The only other thing I've engineered is my power plant, and that's got grade 5 overcharged on it. And that's again just because I have to engineer this to make this thing work at all when I put the modules on it. It doesn't have to be grade 5, it only has to be grade 1 to make it work. But it's going to have to be grade 5 where I'm sitting at to deploy my hardpoints at any given point. Otherwise, it's going to start shutting things off. So I have engineered that. No experimental effect yet, though. But all the other modules in here, and then my optional menu. So there's the prismatic. And again, I'm rank 100. I think yes, I unlock it at rank 63 with Liangri. Okay, now I don't think I can look. Where is... Yeah, I can't look and see at hers, but I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not pretty sure, I know. The first time that you get access to a module is at rank 34. I got access to pack hounds because that used to be what Liangri, that was his specific module back then. The GPU killing missile rack. So at rank 34 on Ailing Duval, you're going to unlock the prismatic. Okay, but again, now that every power has access to every module, all you have to do if you're pledged to Liangri is wait until your levels, or get level 63. And with the Soontir relics being what they are, you get 4, sometimes 5 ranks every trip. It's easy to get there. So I'm full rank on this, so I've unlocked the prismatics. There are my shield cell banks, my fuel scoop, so my 2 full reinforcement packages, my Guardian frameshift booster, and here are the Guardian shield reinforcement packages. Okay, 2 5Ds and a 3D in here. And again, these are the other unlock that you're going to need to do. And like I say, it's an easy unlock if you've already got the module. You just need that and some Guardian technology components and some of the other stuff that we farmed up. And then you have to go buy like 8 commodities. You can just go look for what station has those commodities. Go to a Guardian technology broker and unlock them. There is a difference in this market, and I'll kind of mention this now. Let's actually do it with one of these whole reinforcement packages. So this is the market on here, and this is similar to a mega market, but it's not entirely like a mega market. This does not have every module available to it. Specifically, it doesn't have any of the Guardian modules. If you go to a mega market like at Jameson, under hull reinforcements, and again, don't know why, but these are Guardian shield reinforcement packages, but your Guardian shield reinforcements and hull reinforcements are going to be in here, and you can see we don't have any to buy. They're going to be a blue module, and there's nothing in here that we can buy. So these Stronghold mega markets don't have access to any of the Guardian stuff. There's no FSD booster in here. It goes from collector to FSD interdictors. So you're not going to be able to buy those things or the human tech broker unlocks. With the exception of one thing, I think the anti-corrosion racks are here, yeah. But the rest of them aren't. So you're going to be able to buy most of the things you need here. But some of them, like these, you're going to have to go somewhere else to try and find them once you've unlocked them. You can still find a Leon Re system and get the 15% discount, but you're going to have to go somewhere else to buy them. So all of my packages are in here. There are my 2 shield cell banks, and again, my fuel scoop and my Guardian frameshift drive booster, which I kind of get rid of once I get a little bit later on. So now let's look at what engineering we can do here. Now, we haven't unlocked all of the engineers yet, but we've unlocked quite a few of them, and that's going to allow us to get quite a ways through the engineering that we're looking to do. So our reactive surface composites, we have thermal resistant layered plating. I know I don't have that blueprint. I pinned heavy duty. This is the only ship that I ever use a different type of armor on. So I'm going to have to go engineer my armor somewhere else. My power plant's already been engineered with grade 5 overcharged. My thrusters are engines. And I want dirty drive here. And I'm going to check my materials. I've got enough for this. The other thing that's nice is that if you're leveling up your power right now, every level that you don't get a perk or a module unlock, you're going to be getting a care package. Those care packages include engineering materials of all grades. So while you're leveling up that to get the prismatics, if you're going to do that, start engineering some of your modules on your Corvette. That way, if you run, that way you can use as many engineering materials as you need to for this, and then allow your rank ups to build those back up. If you're full on an engineering material, when you rank up, your care package is going to give you credits for it, which is nice, but those the materials don't go into a buffer. So you might as well use as many engineering materials as you can before you start running the Soontail relics. So that way you can engineer as much as you can and then get a bunch of those back. So now my FSD has already been engineered with grade 5 increased FSD range. My life support is lightweight. And I'm going to be running out of proto-light and proto-radiolic. I've only got enough to do 4 lightweights. Okay, so here's one. Okay, now there's no experimental effects to go along with that. Now my power distributor is charged and enhanced with cluster capacitors. And I have engine focused on my power distributor, so I'm going to have to go engineer this one in person. And then the last thing are my sensors. Now my sensors, I have long range, and my sensor pinned blueprint is lightweight. Because again, this is the only ship, my combat ships are the only ones that I use anything other than lightweight. So I'm going to have to go engineer my sensors as well. So my shield generator, and I believe I have reinforced and high cap, which means I probably don't have this one either because I have enhanced low power. So I'm going to have to go engineer that. Now, shield cell banks are specialized in boss cells. So I don't even think I have shield cell banks pinned anywhere. I don't. That's going to come from the engineer that's still out in Colonia. She's going to be my specialized shield cell bank blueprint. So I'll have to go engineer that myself. The hull reinforcements we normally don't pin to anybody because you don't use them very often. So we'll go modify those in place. And now we can look at our utility hard points. So point defense, I don't think I have any. Yeah, I don't have any point defense. My heatsink launcher, probably lightweight, and I need that to be ammo capacity. So you can see a lot of these that I pin are for the ships I'm going to be building the most, and I don't build combat ships. Once I build this one, I'm done building PvE combat ships except for Thargoid stuff. So a lot of my pinned blueprints aren't going to get me what I need to be. So my shield boosters, I've got blast resistant and heavy duty. Now, let me look and see. Thermal resistant force block, kinetic resistant supercapacitors. And that's it. So yeah, I don't have one for that. Kill warrant scanners, normally not something that I put in here. So let's look at multi-cannons. Okay, now I need all of my multi-cannons to be, almost all of them to be overcharged, and I have overcharged here. So we're going to check that. So the 4A multi-cannon, we're going to do overcharged. I can do 2 of these before I run out of conductive polymers. And yeah, League makes a good point. It's not the way that I prefer my scanners to be on my Corvette, though. For me, when I'm utilizing my Corvette for combat, a lot of times I'm in res sites of one thing or another, and I like to be able to scan a target from a long way away and know whether I need to go approach that target and fight it or move on to another target. The Corvette also turns just as fast as an FDL does, which is one of the end-all be-all PvP ships. So if you're getting a slow turning ship like the cutter, I completely agree with what League is saying. Having the wide angle scanner where you are able to track that target or find that target closer to the edges of your screen is very, very useful. The reason that I prefer the Corvette over the cutter is because this thing is so much more maneuverable. Like I say, it gives medium ships a run for their money when it comes to turning speed. So I'm able to get them into the center of my window a lot more often, and I would prefer to be able to pop in at, see a target out there at 10 kilometers and know that it's a target and be able to look at it and find out whether or not I need to approach it and kill it, or if it's a clean enemy that is out doing something else and I don't need to approach it. But yeah, he does make a good point if you're especially in combat zones where you don't need to ID it. If it's got a red icon, you're going to go shoot it. Wide scanner can be useful, can be more useful than long range. I just tend not to go into combat zones when I'm trying to rank up and that sort of stuff. But yeah, he makes a good point. So then my last one here. Okay, so those are the only two I can do anyway. So now my beam lasers. Do I have anything set for beam lasers? I don't have any of them set yet either. So, so there's some engineering that we have to do, and I'm going to do just a little bit of it before we go out and start killing stuff, because even without engineering, this ship is more than capable of doing some really, really good combat. So I'm not going to be taking an unengineered ship into high intensity combat zones or into Hazres for the most part, but there are plenty of other locations I can go kill pirates that have nothing to do with that. So if you don't have the materials for engineering any of this sort of stuff, you're still going to be perfectly fine. One thing that I do want to go look at, and I'm just off screen looking through the list here. I'm seeing, I'm pretty sure I know who does it, but I want to pull up the list here. Okay, yeah. So Brew is the one that I need to unlock, and he's part of the Imperial line. So I'm not going to be doing him, unlocking him yet. So I'm not going to be able to engineer my beam lasers yet. I could engineer them slightly at the Dweller, but I don't think I'm going to. And yeah, no fighter bay on my Corvette. If I'm utilizing a fighter bay, again, it's going to be in one of the transitory slots. So when I get where I'm going, I will drop off my frameshift drive booster and drop a fighter bay in it, or I will do the same thing with the fuel scoop and drop a fighter bay in it. But the base setup, when I'm trying to get to where I'm going, doesn't have that. Because the jump range on this thing is so horrible, I use those transitory spots to up my jump range, and then when I get there, I either transfer the modules or buy a new module at that location and refit to add those things into it while I'm there. So, you know what, I think what we're going to do is just keep this thing how it is right now. There's a lot of engineering I'm going to have to do off stream, and I don't want to be kind of focused on this yet. And League, the other thing I don't want to do, or the other thing I don't want to have to deal with on a fighter bay right now, is that if I'm using a fighter bay, I'm by myself, I'm hiring an NPC pilot to fly that fighter. NPC pilots take both credits and XP. They don't tell you that. But if you're trying to rank up any of your combat rank, trade rank, exobiologist, any of those ranks right there, having an NPC pilot is going to take you longer to do that, to rank those things up. And I again don't want to hire an NPC pilot until I'm triple elite. And I don't have to worry about it, because that combat rank up there from deadly to elite sucks really bad. And I don't want to have an NPC pilot taking 10% of that away and making it 10% longer to get me through that. So for now, I'm not going to be using a fighter bay at all, just because I'm not going to be flying fighters when I'm doing combat. So let's kind of, now that we've got this thing somewhat built, let's head back to, actually, you know, we're going to go to, and I haven't looked, whoops. Okay. I haven't looked to see what state 37 Geminorum is in. But let's go fly over there. First, let me look at our fire groups again. So my first fire group is always my exploration fire group. It's got the data link scanner and the discovery scanner on it. My second one here. Now the way my joystick is set up, I have two triggers. One of them is like a trigger guard, so to speak, that I can flip up and move out of the way. But if I pull it down, I can pull it down partially and just activate the second trigger. If I pull it down all the way, it activates that trigger and the trigger underneath of it, the primary trigger. So what I do is I have my beam lasers on my second trigger. So that way I only pull this trigger down a little bit and I'm firing my lasers and my kill warrant scanner. So while I'm taking the shields down, I'm scanning for bounties and I'm taking the shields down. As soon as the shields go down, all I have to do then is mash that whole thing down and I'm going to be firing my lasers and my beam cannons all at the same time. Now you might not have that, but for me it makes it really easy to fire both fire groups at the same time. What you can also do if you only have one trigger and you don't want to hold down two different buttons at the same time, is you can set up one fire group that has just your beam lasers on it and a second fire group that has beam lasers and multi-cannons on it, and all you have to do is change your fire group once the shields go down. Okay. For me, I don't need to do that. It makes it really easy, but the kill warrant scanner here, again, while I'm taking down shields, there's no reason not to see if it's got a bounty that I can use. So let's head out to 37 Geminorum. I'm not entirely sure what the system state is, so it might not be great when I get there. But let's just head out there and see if we can go do some pew-pew for a bit. See how fast it turns? And that's with just dirty drives. That's not drag drives as well. So I can really whip this ship around just like any medium ship can. So I don't really worry about wide angle sensors or wide angle scanners as much as I do long range in this ship, but that's just me. In other ships, it would make a lot more sense. And I don't use my sensors to gather materials. If I'm gathering encoded materials, I'm going out and farming them using Jameson Crash Site. If I get some ancillary, great. If I don't, I don't. So, again, for me, that's not really a priority either. But like I say, I'm not telling anybody how to play their game. They can play how they want. It's just not a priority for me. Okay, so let's pop through here. And again, I have SCO on this, and I'll demonstrate it now. But watch how badly this ship moves around with SCO. And look in the bottom right. and you see what the heat does. Okay, this is an old ship. And as such, it does not respond well to SCO. Right, so I'm not going to be using SCO with this ship for long periods of time. It's not optimized for it. Only the newer generation of ships are optimized for it. But it is there in case you need to make a quick escape from something. But for the most part, you're not going to use it, even though I'm going to have that on my frameshift drive. It's just not really usable on these older generations of ships. And I don't know which button activates my shield cell bank and which activates my heat sink, so I'm going to go test that when I get in here too. Okay, so 37 Geminorum has a lot of stations in it. Okay, there are 4 large stations here in 37 Geminorum. Let me look at the factions. Okay, we'll just go to the Frechette Ring first. Let me look at the faction states over here. So we do have expansion. Okay, so we do have a civil war, but that's really it. So this might not be the greatest, but we'll go look. Let's go land at Frechette Ring real quick, and we'll take a look at it. Yeah, that's the only thing that I really ever use it for. Like League says, is that if you're traveling somewhere, you use it to get around the star, or get through a gravity well if you have to approach something really fast, and you're trying to get through a location to get to somewhere else. But yeah, it's not really used for anything other than getting around a star when you jump into a system and you're jumping out somewhere else. And that applies to all the other types of ships, the old school ships as well. They just are not optimized for it at all. And it will tell you in the ship description whether or not it's SCO optimized or not. The only reason I get it is because of that 2-second boot time. The increased jump range is obviously nice, but that 2-second boot time, since I shut off my FSD, is what really matters. Okay, now I have auto dock on. Auto dock in a Corvette is almost as bad as auto launch. This, if you're not doing anything, and you're using it to run cargo, auto dock is fine, but it's gonna miss this mail slot like half the time. And like here. It will just get you killed. So I just forgot to turn it off. But once you get inside, you can let it take over if you want. It's just I forgot I had it on. I was doing cargo running missions with this to run the Soontail relics, so I still have it on. But yeah, I'm definitely going to turn it off. Large ships, and you can see, look how badly it overshot. So hey, when you run 7.5 hours straight in one sitting of cargo runs back and forth, League, you can call me a heretic. Okay, so let's go in and let's look at submissions. Okay, so the good thing about 37 Geminorum, one is right next to where this. I did put a lot of thought, like 7 years ago ish, when I started grinding for my fleet carrier, where I was going to base it. 37 Geminorum and OU Geminorum both have a whole lot of large stations in them, and they have a lot of factions in the systems. And that means that I can have a much better opportunity to stack different types of missions. And for instance, we're going to take a look through this and see what this mission list says. And we can find out whether or not we can stack these missions or not. So for instance, kill 37 Geminorum Crimson Bridge Incorporated ships. Okay, that is coming from the traditional 37 Geminorum Constitution Party. Okay, so right here, you can see over at the right, traditional 37 Geminorum Constitution Party. If I look a little bit farther down, kill 37 Crimson Bridge Incorporated ships. It's coming from the same faction. So if I take both of these, they're not going to stack. They're going to work consecutively, not concurrently. Meaning that if I kill a ship, it's going to apply toward the first one in my list. I'd kill 37, and then with this still accepted, my 38th one would apply here. Okay, they're running consecutively because they're from the same faction. Okay, now if I find that same pirate group from a different faction, they will stack. Okay, so and I might not find them from different factions. Most of these tend to be from the same. Here's, yeah, takedown of a pirate. So this takedown of a pirate is from a different faction entirely, but that pirate is from the Wasatch Jet Partnership. So if I'm killing Crimson Bridge Incorporated ships, it would be nice if he was from that same faction. So while I'm killing ships, one of them might be him, and if I kill him, it would count toward that other list of ships. You kind of see what I mean by stacking these things up together? So G8716 Blue Crew, none of the others are for that. And I already looked at that one. Wasatch Jet Partnership. So it doesn't look like a lot of these are going to stack very well. Oops. Because they're all from the same factions. Okay. But what I can do is I can pick up one of each of these, and I can go to another station and see if that station will have crossovers or not. And that's how you stack pirate massacre missions or kill missions on pirates. Now there are different types. You see these. The blue icon means that it's best, the game recommends you do it in a wing. Okay, you partner up in multiplayer to do it. Now you can see there's a difference. Kill 37 Geminorum Crimson Bridge Incorporated ships, and it's only paying 463,000 credits. If I go down here to Crimson Bridge Inc. ships, the same thing, but it's paying 1.5. Why? What's the difference? Well, if I go back up here and look at this one, I'm destroying 10 of them, and their threat level, it's threat level 0. So I can find my targets in conflict zones. Okay, so that's why all these are from the same, is these two are in civil war with each other to go find it. To go complete them. Now, if I go down here and I look at this one for 3 million, you got to kill 24, and they're threat level 5. Now, threat level 5 doesn't mean that I have to kill threat level 5 ships, quote unquote. What it means is that if you take this, you have a greater chance of encountering higher level ships. So while I've taken a threat 0 and a threat 5, the threat 5 one is still active, so more of the Geminorum, Crimson Bridge Incorporated ships I encounter are going to be higher quality ships. Okay, even though I've got a threat level 0 out there, I have one that tends to overwrite it at threat level 5. So you're going to get bigger payouts because there's more danger and you have to kill more of them, is basically what that difference means with the wing missions. Now, stacking these up and being in a wing where you get 100% additional bounty bonus for each person in that wing means that this payout can be substantially large. Okay, so stacking wing kill missions is the fastest way to make money, as long as you can get together with 3 other people and get in a wing and do it. Because then you're looking at basically a 5 times payout for every ship that you kill while you're stacking these missions up. Okay, but since we're not in I'm not doing multiplayer here, and I'm just looking for pirates to kill. These aren't pirates. These Constitution Party and Crimson Bridge Inc., you can see those two are fighting against each other. So those are going to be in conflict zones. I don't want to take a stand in a conflict right now. So let's just go find this guy. Okay? How about we go do this one, and we'll kind of see how it works. So this mission here, so if we look at our transactions tab and we take a closer look at that mission, we need to find a specific target. I need to scan the nav beacon in the 14 Geminorum system, or use a discovery scanner. You really just want to scan the nav beacon to locate the signal source, and he's going to be inside that signal source. Now, this was a threat level 2, I believe, so he might have friends that are with him. So we'll take a look at this here in a second. So, hey Shadow, welcome to the game. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for being here. Yeah, I mean, and he brings up a good point in that once you get to the point where I am on my main account, credits are something you don't need nearly as much. I have like 41 ships or something. They're all fully engineered. They all serve specific purposes. I have a fleet carrier. I can't make a squadron because I'm by myself and I'm not joining a squadron, so there's no real point in me having a whole bunch of credits. My fleet carrier upkeep, I can make that by playing for an hour every week if I want. So credits aren't really worth it as much, and since the colonization update and the ascendancy update, finding stacking missions is a lot harder than it used to be. Because like I mentioned yesterday or on Thursday, the mission boards are now entirely different. Okay, so let's launch and let's go look for 14 Geminorum, which is right next door, and we will fly there.
Landing coupler disengaged. You are clear to leave.
Now with the Corvette, you need to be offset a little bit to the top of the mail slot. Your cockpit is way up high on the ship, so while you're flying and you go through the mail slot, you want to be offset a little bit above it.
Frameshift drive charging.
Yeah, and like Lee just said, credits, once you're in the end game, credits don't really matter. They just don't. Nobody is short on credits when you get to the end game. Getting to the end game, though, credits matter quite a bit. So for those people who are just starting out and who are watching, I've kind of explained some of the ways to earn credits. And combat is certainly a viable way to earn it. And if you do have friends that are playing the game with you, stacking kill missions on enemies is the most effective way to earn credits today. It just takes some setup, because you need to have a wing of people to make it super, super effective. So let's scan the nav beacon here. And yeah, that's one of the reasons that I chose my location up here, because there's a lot of OU Geminorum, 37 Geminorum, 14 Geminorum, 25 Geminorum. All these systems are all within like 10 light years of each other, and they all have anywhere from 4 to 6 large stations. And there's anywhere from 6 to 8 factions in each station. So it's a lot easier for me to go around here and find different mission types and that sort of stuff.
4, 3, 2, 1,
And Dread, like I have way too much confidence when I'm leaving the mail slot. I've been entering and leaving mail slots for 10 years in this game, so I do take chances. I fully admit that I take chances, but yeah, for the most part, I'm fairly confident in my abilities. So now that I have found, or now that I've scanned the beacon, I'm looking for a mission target, and of course it would be 23,000 light years out, in a ship that I don't want to use SCO on. So, and hey, good times, welcome to the stream. All hail our Thargoid overlords. Well, they're still out there. They took a pretty good beating in 2025 from all those pilots, but they are definitely still out there. And yeah, what Lee just mentioned, and I briefly mentioned this about the T10. That's the Type 10 Defender. There is a build where you basically stack up a whole bunch of turreted weapons, where you can essentially go AFK. When you put a turreted weapon on your ship, you can set it to attack anybody who attacks you. You can set it to attack everybody. So you can set it to attack a bunch of different, in a bunch of different ways. And if you're in an anarchy system where you don't care who you kill, you can set it to attack everybody. You can drop your ship into an instance like a nav beacon or a res site or something like that, and you can just walk away. As the ships come within range to scan you, they'll be in range of your weapons, and you'll start shooting at them. That'll anger them. They'll shoot back at you, but you're killing them really fast, and then you're waiting for another ship to come in range, and your shields are recharging and that sort of stuff in the interim. It's not 100% foolproof because there are 2 locations on a T10, directly in front and directly behind, where if the ship settles in that location, they can shoot you, and you will not be shooting back at them because your turrets can't depress far enough to reach them. So there are some downsides to it, but there are locations where if you're not careful, you can get overwhelmed, especially at higher combat levels. If you're doing this when you're combat elite, you're going to be spawning a lot more of elite NPCs and a lot more NPCs that have engineered ships or are in wings themselves, and you can get overwhelmed. It's better to do it when you're early on in the combat rank grind, and you're spawning crappy enemy ships. But yeah, that was a thing. It used to be a lot more viable than it is now, because again, finding missions or finding systems that have starports and factions that are in the right states to be able to stack up those kill missions, it's a lot harder to find those things nowadays than it used to be. So, but yeah, you could sit down and I actually let my T10 run for 8 hours overnight once on the weekend, and when I came back, it was still there. And I had racked up a few 100 million credits worth of bounties, and I'm not paying attention, and I got to do a loop of shame at a Corvette, which sucks. But yeah, it's normally one of those things where you kind of sit in your chair, you put a movie on, you watch a movie and let it do its thing in the background, so if something bad happens or your ship gets in trouble or something like that, you can quickly respond to it, but you don't have to really watch it all the time. Alright, so let's drop in here, and I'm going to reset my pips. I normally have that set up on my pips, where I'm equally distributed between systems and weapons, with just a slight on engine, so if I boost, I do get some of it back. Okay, so he looks like he does have friends here. Ah, so they're gonna get jumped. So, did I not set my modules? Oh, I didn't set my modules right. I did it in the build and forgot to set them here, so so it shut everything off. That obviously wasn't great. So, where's my FSD? And my cargo hatch is fine. Okay. So yeah, I was like, why can't I scan him? Why can't I see him? So, let's get back here. And there's our target. he's just sitting there? Okay. I will let you sit there. There he goes. Now he's going to decide to move. Okay. So, anticlimactic, to say the least. He was a mostly harmless target, and you could see how fast I took his shields down, and then how fast I was able to break his hull. He was also a small target, so it was fairly anticlimactic. If you're just taking a small mission like this, to on a one-on-one with this ship, it's overkill. There's no other way to say it. So let's go look at something else that may be a little bit more exciting. Okay, so if I'm going to look through this list, you see I have resource extraction sites here. Okay, there are 4 different grades of them: low, regular, high, and hazardous. Okay. Now I'm not going to be going into a haz-res, or even a high right now, because I don't have my ship engineered. But let's go into a regular resource extraction site. And of course all of these are going to be way back where I was.
Frameshift drive charging.
Oh, and let's disable that. So let's kind of watch what happens here with our modules. Okay, so here I've got some set at 2. I'm gonna bring out my hardpoints. You see it shuts them off. Okay, it shuts them off automatically. Okay, so including my frameshift drive booster, my FSD, my cargo hatch, and my fuel scoop. These 2 I can actually leave on, I believe. Yeah. Okay, according to my build, I can leave them on. But here, watch what happens when I stow my hardpoints. It automatically reboots the FSD and the FSD booster. Okay. Now that 10 seconds is a 10 seconds I don't want to have to wait while I'm under attack and I'm trying to escape from a dicey situation. So that's why I get because while it's booting up, you can't activate it. So I want to be able to get that down to that 2-second time. So if something bad happens, stow my hard points, 2 seconds later I can start charging and I can get out of there. So yeah, and it was also just my own fault, League, for not I hadn't set them in game. I built this thing last night and I added the Guardian modules to it this morning. And I just forgot to set my fire groups. I did not set my power priorities. I should have set them regardless of whether or not I was going to be over the limit or not. But yeah, you're right. When I engineered drag drives, it put me just over the power plant limit, but I should have adjusted it anyway. Yeah, and the fuel scoop and the cargo hatch are 2 things that I normally turn off. Here, doing those 2 things doesn't give me enough, so I need to turn off some other things. So instead, what I've done is turned off my FSD and my booster. The cargo hatch I still might use to manually scoop materials, and the the fuel scoop, I could turn it off, but even with it on, I think I'm still at 90, 98% or something like that. So it doesn't matter whether I turn it on or off. So we're going to drop in here to this resource extraction site, and I'll kind of explain to you what this is about. If you're really trying to do a bunch of good paying combat, you need to be doing these in anarchy systems. Because in anarchy systems, you're going to have pirate factions. You don't have pirate factions nearly as much in systems that have high security levels, which we have here. And those security ships are going to be competing with you for kills in a resource extraction site. And they're going to be getting in the way, and if you accidentally shoot them, they're not going to like you. But I want to kind of illustrate what happens or how a resource extraction site works. Because you're going to going to a nav beacon is one way to find pirates. It's the least likely to spawn pirate ships, but it is a way to go find them. Finding them from signal sources like you just saw me do is another way to do it. The next tier up are resource extraction sites, which is what we're going to do here. Basically, when you're in a ring mining, pirates are going to want to come jump in and find you and take that stuff from you. So the 4 different tiers of resource extraction sites, the higher the tier, the more pirate ships are going to spawn and the higher quality they're going to be. So we're going to see a dramatic increase in the number of ships that spawn in resource extraction sites over like nav beacons. And you'll see a dramatic increase in the number of ships that spawn in the different types of resource extraction sites as you move up in difficulty level. That was the wrong button. The next tier above that is, and these are what we call HAZRESs. Hazardous resource extraction sites are the pirate killing version of top of the line going to kill pirate stuff. There is something else which is higher than that, more end game, which is the high intensity conflict zones. So when somebody gets into a fight, they have a war going on, you'll get a conflict zone, and the high intensity versions of those are really, really tricky. Okay, so let's see who's behind us here. He's jumping out. That's what surge detected means. This guy has hard points. He's a Type 9 heavy though. So there's a crate Mark II. And he's clean. An ass scout. He's not going to be a pirate. If he is, he's a horrible pirate. And there's a miner. Okay. And another miner. And every time you scan, and this is what League mentioned earlier, when you scan a target, you will sometimes get engineering materials, encoded engineering materials. And you see most of those are full for me. That's why I'm getting that notice in the upper right, engineering or materials full. Okay, so I don't have any pirates in here yet. And you'll end up keeping a watch on your contacts list. And you'll see people pop in. And they ask Scout, again, if that's a pirate, it's a horrible pirate. And somebody just jumped in. Or they just jumped out. Let's go find this guy. He's in a Cobra. Oh, he looks suspicious. Yep. Alright, so he's wanted. I don't have any cargo, so he's not going to attack me. So I normally wait for him to decide to get tired of me, and then he gets beat up. And he's got chaff. So chaff, when you see it happen, doesn't mean you can't target the ship. You just can't use your gimbaled weapons to do it. You have to untarget it, and they become fixed. And when they're fixed, they just fire straight ahead. And he's done. Okay, so chaff is a way to defeat gimbaled weapons. Gimbaled weapons have a range in front of them where you can see they auto lock on, but they have a jitter. You see, they don't stay fully locked in place. But when you untarget, you see where those dots are in the middle of the screen? That's where the weapons are going to be aimed at.
Scan detected.
Okay. So Christian here is scanning me. So let's go get him. And somebody's already going after him.
Target destroyed.
Okay. And I kind of look through the list here and see if I have, and that's system authority vessel. It's green. I didn't need to. So all the rest of them look like they're. Let's check Jose here. Nope, he's clean. So this is what a regular resource extraction site looks like. So again, even for an unengineered Corvette, it's not really much of a challenge. Okay, now what I will say also in combat, when you kill something, they're going to drop materials. Okay, and some of these are engineered materials, you can see. Okay, so there are. Somebody else is on me. Where's Gray? An eagle. Okay, buddy. Bit off more than you could chew with that one, man. But they will leave materials behind. And you can go pick those materials up. And these are engineering materials, just like anything else. Now, most of these are going to be low-level ones. Levels 2, level 3, level 1, that sort of stuff. But it is a way to farm engineering materials. So if you are looking to gain engineering materials, it's not the most efficient way to get engineering materials, but you can be gaining engineering materials and earning a bunch of credits at the same time with this. Normally I don't tend to do it though. What I'll do is I'll kind of look at what's left over after they're killed, and if there's any higher level materials in there, then I may go manually scoop them, and that's why I leave my cargo scoop active on my power priorities. System authority vessels. Okay, so nobody else that's going to be, because again, if you've got ass scouts that are pirates, they're pretty bad pirates.
Scan detected.
And that's probably a system authority vessel that's scanning me. Yep. Who's this guy here? Oh. And yeah, Shadow's talking about some of the, and is talking about some of the, because when you get to the end game, and you're combat elite, and you're spawning a lot of elite and deadly ships, they're going to have chaff a lot. I mean, a lot. So you need to be familiar with fixed aiming, like I am right now with non-targeted aiming. Okay, where I know that the bottom three, you see the circle in the middle, the bottom three, and where's Ed? Is he a bad guy? Yeah, okay, so we're in a... Ooh, somebody's using railguns. Like. So he's wanted, so let's get into... Oops. Let's get into this fight. Alright, so he's done. I think the other one's already killed. Yep. So, like right now, the 4 dots in the middle are my 4 multi-cannons. So if I fire the multi-cannons, they're not going to hit that point. And you'll see what I mean. If I approach an asteroid, you see those dots don't move. But as I get closer to it, those dots would be moving farther apart if I was locked on it. The bottom 3 pips around the bottom of the circle are my 3 lasers. So when I fire them, you can see where they go through the dots, but they don't necessarily hit where the dots are. You can see where they're hitting the asteroid. They're much closer in, but they go through the dots. So when you're higher rank and or in higher intensity zones, you need to be familiar with how non-locked weapon combat works, because chaff is going to make your gimbaled weapons much less effective. They're still going to hit occasionally. A broken clock is right twice a day. So they're going to work, but they're not going to work great. Ooh, and hello, give me a clipper.
Target shields.
So you need to be familiar with how non-lock targeting of your weapons works. So Keith here is also a pirate. And he's in a wing. So we're gonna, and there's Chaff. So, and there you go. So now I can still fire my lasers. Oh, and he took the brunt of that. And we killed him. Or really beat him up. So he's got Chaff again. Now the other thing is maneuvering when you're in combat. And while he's got Chaff, I'm going to change off him to somebody else. He's got a shield cell bank. You saw him start to recharge his shields. When you're turning, you see that blue section of my throttle down there at the bottom? When you're turning, you're going to get a much better turning response if your speed is inside that blue section, like here. So what you want to do is when he gets past you, and you have to start turning, you want to slow down. Okay, you want to drop your throttle back to in the blue range, and then once you've lined up on him, you can go to full throttle again. Okay? So you need to kind of know how your combat maneuverability works. That's what that blue section down there means. So once your speed drops into it, and we can illustrate it. So I'm going to maneuver like somebody's. How about we get this first here. Octavius here is begging to be killed. Okay. So let's illustrate that turning thing. So look at my speed, I'm outside of it, and now see, let's kind of do this, and now I'm going to drop my speed down, and when it gets into the blue, see how much faster I can turn. When it gets out of the blue, you see how it slows down. That's what the difference is. So if you're trying to track a target, you want to have your speed in the blue when you're turning, and then when you're trying to stay with them, you can go to full throttle. So need to learn how to manage your throttle situation as well when you're in combat, because you're not just going to leave it full throttle all the time. So I'm going to upset him. I'm in the blue, and then once I get around him, then I go back to full throttle. Yeah, I fly flight assist almost exclusively. I don't use FA off just because I learned, I was on console and I learned without it. So me learning it now is going to be a massive headache. drop down to the blue, and when he gets halfway around, I go full throttle again. Try not to hit the system authority vessels.
Target destroyed.
Okay, and you see, this is going to be a constant. Once you kind of really get the resource site hopping, it's going to be a pretty. You won't have to wait very long, I should say, for pirate ships to pop back in. Okay, it's going to be a fairly constant thing. Federal gunships are always good good targets to possibly be pirates, and he is. And with the Corvette, the 3 lasers in those spots are underneath the bottom of the ship. So to get all 3 of them firing, you want to be aiming slightly above your target. Yeah, Shadow, unfortunately, macros, I can't use. Since I like this game so much, I can't use anything like that. Yeah, Mister, welcome to the stream. So do I have an overcharged power plant? Yes, I do. I'm required to have an overcharged power plant on this Corvette build. I'm gonna post the build after the stream's over. But yeah, I'm required to have overcharged. I do not, or I still have thermal spread on it though, to help me with heat management on shield cell bank activation. I do not use heat sinks for those unless it's an emergency. So I have overcharged thermal spread, but still Class A, Class 8A. An adder? Really? Let's get him angered so he turns around and doesn't go after the miner. So the other way that you can maneuver fast in a corner is by boosting. Boosting has its downsides in that once the boost runs out, you tend to get into what I'm in now, which is what I call a turn and burn or a jousting setup. Where you just constantly boost past each other. And that's how PvP works. The PvP combat is the most boring stuff on the planet. You can go watch videos of it, people who are really good at it. And all you're doing is jousting with each other. And trying to lead your target correctly so that your shots hit. I hate those type of encounters, and that's why I don't boost very much to up my turn rate, because it leaves you on the back end of that boost going too fast and you're not able to maneuver well enough after that. Okay, so he just boosted away. Now he's done.
Target destroyed.
Cobra Mark IVs are always good possible pirates. Yep. So let's get him angry. Try not to hit the system authority vessels, they will get angry with you.
Target destroyed. Scan detected.
Okay, and you see through all of that, we still haven't dropped ever below 56, 57% on our shields.
Scan
Okay.
detected.
Now, because I've completely forgotten which button my heat sinks are on and which one my there's no way you brought an ass scout into a fight. Okay, well you did. He's got shield cell banks too.
Target destroyed.
Is he in a wing? He is. Nice. I'm gonna hit that asteroid. Corvettes do not do well inside the asteroid field. They're maneuverable, but they're not you know, they're not super duper maneuverable. So fighting inside the asteroid field's always fun. Trying not to hit that system authority vessel behind him. Brought a Diamondback Explorer into this. Okay, next one. Chaff. So again, unselect the target, your weapons become fixed, and you can still fire. FDL. Nice. He's definitely a pirate. He's getting attacked. And he's master as well. This ought to be a fun fight. Ooh. There's way too many system authority vessels in here. I'm gonna end up shooting one of them.
Target destroyed. Scan detected.
Another Diamondback Explorer. And now you can see kind of what I'm talking about, how once you get the sight really popping, it becomes a fairly constant thing. You need to get away from him so that I can engage you. Chaff. So, since I was mentioning earlier, what I haven't done combat in so long, and I completely forgot which hotkeys on my throttle I have set to shield cell bank and heat sinks. I'm gonna try one of these buttons and see what happens, and we'll try and demonstrate what happens during a fight with a shield cell bank. This guy's a pirate, I'm sure. Okay, so let me see what this button does. Okay, that's my heat sink. So what I'm going to do is I've got 2 thermal vent lasers. Okay, so that's silent running. Trying to remember where my shield cell bank is on my throttle. Because my shields just went down, actually. What is my armor at? 90%? Let's just finish these 2 guys off. And then we'll probably get out of here. Because my shields went down. I wasn't paying attention. And I don't know what the button is because I haven't used it in so long. Okay, the other guy's dead. So you can see how long it's taking to recharge down there in the bottom. This is the disadvantage to prismatics, is that if they ever go down, it takes a really, really long time for them to come back up. Like 20 minutes to come back up. It takes forever to do it. So your goal is to not ever let the prismatics go down, and for that I use my shield cell banks. Now I just can't remember, now that I know where my heatsink is this? I'm gonna have to find out which one my shield cell bank is on.
Incoming mission critical message. Cannot comply.
Yeah, I know what that one is. Let's see if I don't think I'm gonna be able to use it now anyway.
Scan detected.
Yeah, I'm trying to run through some buttons here. It might be this. Nope. So I need to figure out which one my shield cell bank is on, but I need to wait for my shields to come back up for it to work anyway. And I'm not going to be getting into any more fights with my shields down. So let's put my hard points away. Let's get out of mass lock. And for that I can just press up on my pips and put full to engines. And I can perma boost in the Corvette.
Frameshift drive charging. 4, 3, 2, 1. Engage.
And sorry if I missed some comments. Like I say, I was too busy doing a little bit of fighting there. So let's go back and turn this in. And oh, don't want to do that. Activate the SEO just to get past the ring. Okay. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, Shadow, that NPCs do macros, but the terms of service for the game prohibit it. So it's one of those things that I don't ever want to take a chance. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It does seem sometimes a little bit unfair that the NPCs tend to be able to, or appear to be able to. We obviously don't see their pip configuration, but they appear to be doing those things really, really fast, and we obviously can't. But yeah, it's not something that I'm going to experiment with. I've actually seen people get their accounts disabled for stuff like that, so I'm just not going to take the chance. Same thing with all those automated fleet carrier jumping apps and all that sort of stuff. Those are all also against the terms of service. And there were a bunch of people, like, I think the first background API for fleet carrier jumps came out like a month or 3 weeks after the fleet carrier update, and FDev banned 400 plus accounts a month later because of that. I mean, they just take that part really, really seriously for whatever reason or another. So
Core Dynamics, India, Romeo Uniform. We prepared a landing pad for your arrival, Commander. Welcome to our station.
macros that use one button press to input multiple buttons are against the terms of service. They absolutely are. FDev has mentioned that before. It doesn't mean that people don't use them all the time, but they are absolutely against the terms of service. If you're doing one button press that institutes multiple button presses in the game, then that is against the terms of service. Oh. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but like I say, it absolutely is against it. FDev has made that very, very clear. In multiple posts when it was asked, because there used to be an app that did specifically that, and FDev contacted the developer and told them to quit development on it.
Touchdown confirmed. Docking restraints engaged.
Okay, so we'll go and just turn this in. I don't care about anything here. I'm just going to take the credits. Now, what do you do with all those other bounties that we got? Well, you go to your administrative contact, and inside here you'll have bounty vouchers. Okay, now bounty vouchers are only available for collection from the in the system where those factions are, or have a reference to. So this might not be all the bounty vouchers that I have available to me. So I have, what, 4.528 million? If I go to my transactions tab here and look, 4.5528 million. So it looks like all of these claims here are available in this second system I'm in right now. Sometimes that won't be the case. If you want to make sure you're collecting all of your bounty vouchers, you need to turn them in the system where you're getting the kills to guarantee it. Sometimes, like this case, you will find a system right next door that has the same turn-ins in it, and you're able to get all your bounty vouchers there. It just doesn't always happen. Now, there's another way to deal with this. And for instance, I'm just going to turn in these two. And I'm going to leave the BD07 domain bounty vouchers. Okay. And I'm going to bring up my second screen. I'm going to go to Inara here, and I'm going to do a search nearest. So right now, I'm pretty close to my home system, close enough anyway. And I'm going to look for an Interstellar factor that's near me. Okay, the nearest one that's got a large pad, which I'm on right now, is Ligin Vision. I'm going to copy this, go back to my main here, and we'll put Ligin Vision in. Now, I've obviously been there before, and I have it bookmarked. I have it bookmarked for a reason. And yeah, I know, Shadow. I know exactly what those type of macros do. And there've been all sorts of discussions where developers have weighed in on those things on the forums. And if that macro works in a way where you press one button and it presses multiple keys in game to set your pips to multiple things, then that is a violation of the terms of service. So even though you're only hitting one key, so to speak, that's like adding to a specific thing or subtracting from a specific thing, you've only pressed one key in the game, and it's input multiple commands through the API to the game. That's a violation of the terms of service. So, yeah, it's one of those things and I get it to a certain extent. The API or application processing interface, the way that all of these databases transfer data to and from the game and that sort of stuff. FDev put the APIs out there so that third-party independent developers could put together all these useful tools. But think about what might happen, and I'm just throwing out a might. If every person in the game pressed their pip macro at the exact same time, and the client side tried to export all of that data to the server side at the exact same time. Now that's not something that's ever going to happen or that we would ever think about and care about, but one button press inputting 20 button inputs directly into the API and then going back to the server side to recalculate the inputs for that could very quickly overload server stuff and have the equivalent of DDoS. And that's what developers think about, even though we don't think about that sort of stuff. So I get why it is. It makes it to be a pain. But FDev is certainly not the only developer to have stuff like that either. Most modern terms of service games do not allow that sort of stuff for those exact same reasons. It just is what it is. It's just part of it. But yeah, I do not use any macros or automatic flight adjustment things because FDev has taken a pretty hard stance on those. FA off flying used to be a lot easier when there was a program, probably 7-8 years ago. There was a program that would automatically swap between FA on and FA off to get the maximum performance out of turn rates, and it was kind of stupid how fast you could turn when the game was flopping back and forth between FA on and FA off constantly while you're making a turn. And FDev again had conversation with the developer of that, and they removed it and then banned anybody who was using it because of that same type of thing. So yeah, it's just part of it. And yeah, what Mr. is saying is kind of like what you see in No Man's Sky and things like that, or to a certain extent also in Star Citizen, where you're outside the ship, your camera's outside the ship, either behind it and above it, behind it and below it, various different things like that. Yeah, they don't really have an option for that in the game. I mentioned that when somebody else was asking about Noob Hammers, when someone else was asking about No Man's Sky a few weeks ago. Just not really a part of the game.
Prepare the landing pad for your arrival, Commander. Welcome to our station. Permission authorized. Cleared for landing on docking bay 39er.
Let's go. Get in there, buddy.
Landing gear deployed.
Okay, so now that we're here at Lagin, we're going to go to our contacts, and there are going to be two Interstellar Factor contacts here. One is for mercenary activities, and one is for your legal, and it's basically the same things. The combat bonds are under your mercenary facilities. All your other types of bounties are under your administrative contact. So under legal facilities here, you see bounty vouchers. You can pay off fines and collect other bounties. But the bounty vouchers here, the faction is not here. The BD072869 domain faction is not in this system. I can still redeem the payout. It's just, it's going to do it at a 25% penalty. Okay, so Interstellar Factors are useful in that you don't have to go to the system that's angry with you to pay off fines or bounties in that system. And if you have a whole bunch of stray bounty vouchers sitting in your transactions panel, you don't have to fly to all of those different systems to go pick them up. You can pay them off for a penalty here. Same thing with your fines. They're going to be 25% higher. Bounties, 25% higher. But you can pay them all off in one spot rather than traveling around to those other locations to do it. So I always keep a bookmark next to my home station for an Interstellar Factor. So that way, if I'm looking around in my transactions panel and I have a bunch of just random things flogging it up, like I've got a fine for bumping somebody coming out of a mail slot and it's 300 light years away, I can just go to the Interstellar Factor and pay it off. And I don't have to go all the way out there. So that's kind of what an Interstellar Factor does and how that pertains to combat and bounties and all of that sort of stuff as well. So there is another option to collect on those things. So we've kind of gotten a basic understanding today of how combat works through missions and through just generalized combat at nav beacons and resource extraction sites. So what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to fully engineer my Corvette. I've got all the engineering materials, I'm pretty sure, to do it. I just need to go do a bunch of flying around because I don't have these blueprints pinned because I'm only going to use them for my combat ships. And I think on my main account I have only 3. I have my Corvette for generalized PvE combat. I have my Crate Mark II for Thargoid Scout combat. And I have my Anaconda for Basilisk Insta-gibbing combat. And those are the only 3 combat ships I have out of the 41 or 42 ships that I have on my main account. So I just don't need to pin those blueprints because I don't use them enough. So it's going to take me a while though in a 29 or whatever light year ship to go fly around all these engineering ports, and there's no need for you guys to see me do any of that. So when we come back next week, I'm going to have a fully engineered combat Corvette. And then I think I probably might put up a poll, actually. That might be a good idea for me to do. Put up a poll and see what gameplay loop y'all would like to see me look at next. I am going to do a bunch of combat here off stream this week, so I do need to get my cash back up. I'm up to 88 million. My rebuy cost on this Corvette is 40 million. So if I do end up dying, it's going to take half my cash stack. So I need to get my cash back up. I'm going to do that by doing a bunch of combat off stream this week after I get it engineered, and see if I can't get that up to at least a couple of million credits again. And then I'll probably, like I say, it might be a good idea if I put a poll up. I have not done, I haven't built out a cargo ship yet, and I'm going to need to do that. I'm going to need to build a Type 8 and a Clipper, a Panther Clipper Mark II, here in the core. The Type 8 is the highest capacity medium hauling ship, and the Clipper is the highest capacity large hauling ship. They're just going to be really expensive to do either one of those. So I may put up a poll to see what you guys want to do as far as the next gameplay loop to explore, and we'll kind of see what falls out of it. Can I explain the difference between combat bonds and bounty vouchers? Yeah, and this is something I actually explained 2 weeks ago, I think, because I messed up this explanation when I was talking about unlocking engineers. I haven't unlocked engineers for so long that I just wasn't paying attention when I did it. And we may be able to illustrate it here. Let me look. I don't know if there's anybody that's in... I don't know what the system states are here. Okay, yeah, here they are. So if you look at this objective, well, first, I guess let's go back. And we'll look at the system state, because this is where this all stems from. So the current states are listed underneath each faction over to the right. So under Civitas Day, if you go to the bottom right-hand side of this box, you can see there's a box that has 4 arrows pointing out. That's the expansion state. But you can click on it, you can go down, you can see what the current state is. It says expansion. However, the fist, and there's always going to be at least 2. See a fist, or if you see crossed swords as an icon, there's always going to be at least 2. And their influence is going to be really close to each other in percent value. If we click on the new OU Geminorum Green Party, you can see they're in a civil war. Okay, so they are in a civil war with the OU Geminorum Industry Party in this system. And what that means is that it's going to open up a new group of missions in the mission board for you to be able to go look at. So OU Geminorum Industry and OU Geminorum Green are fighting each other. So if I go to this mission, find your targets in the conflict zones in the Tashitter sector. Now, we haven't explored this yet, and we won't do this. This is another gameplay loop that we're going to look at a little bit later once I've engineered this Corvette. Conflict zones, once you drop into them, you have to choose a side. You choose whether you're going to side with the OU Geminorum Industry or the new OU Geminorum Green Party in that fight. As soon as you pick a side, all the opposing side ships turn red, and you are fighting now with a team against all those other ships. Okay? If you're in a conflict zone and you're killing ships, you're going to be getting combat bonds. Okay? And those get turned in. Whoops. Those get turned in at your combat bond contact or your mercenary facilities interstellar factor. Okay? So if you're in a conflict zone, you're going to be getting combat bonds, and those get turned in here. If you are killing pirates, then you're going to be getting bounties. You're going to be getting bounty vouchers. Those get turned in administrative contacts or the legal facilities at interstellar factors. Okay? And if doesn't matter where you're killing them, if you're doing it in a nav beacon, in a has-res, or something like that, then you're going to be getting bounty vouchers. If you're in a conflict zone, low intensity, normal intensity, or high intensity combat zones, then you're going to be getting combat bonds, and you have to turn them in a different location. Okay, so that's the difference between those two. And so if you're looking to unlock the engineer, where you have to get combat bonds, you have to go into a combat or a conflict zone to get combat bonds. And that's what I messed up when I was talking about unlocking that engineer, is I hadn't done it in so long. And I don't normally do conflict zones. So I hadn't done it so long, I was killing pirates and getting bounty vouchers, and obviously that wasn't going to count. So the next episode I had to correct it, and put a note in that video that it was wrong. So, but here's kind of what I'm going to do. I'm going to put up the, build for my Corvette in the description of this video once I get through putting the chapter markers and doing my editing on it. So you'll be able to have a view of this. I believe, Mr. And I'm going to go check right now, but I'm almost positive that my Type 11 build has already been posted. Let me go check. Because I'm pretty sure I posted my Type 11 Prospector build 2 weeks ago. Or a week ago now on Thursday, but let me see. Yeah. My Type 11 Prospector build is in the video description of episode 13. So if you're looking for what my Type 11 build is, that I built out last week, you can go take a look at it in the episode 13 description. There should be an Edzy link and a Coriolis link. I'm only going to put up a Coriolis link for my Corvette today because I don't have this built, and I'm not going to rebuild it in Edzy just to post it. But there will be a link to this Corvette in the video description here in a little bit. And I think that brings us to the end of the live stream today. As always, for those of you who haven't been to the stream before, again, thank you all for being here. And I missed somebody, and I'm going to mess this up, but Amethyson. I apologize. You dropped a comment a while ago asking me what ship I was using. And yeah, Mr. answered you. It is the Corvette, but I missed your comment and I apologize for that. Thank you very much for being on the stream. But for those of you who haven't been in here before, again, thank you for showing up. I hope you learned a little bit of something about the game. For those of you who've been here before, as always, thank you very much for your support, because as I always say, without your support, none of this would be possible. This is Commander Draval saying, until next time, fare thee well.